Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have family law attorney Emmanuel Albarado, owner of the Albarado Law Firm, PC, all the way from Denton, Texas. Now then, Emmanuel, who's considered to be an authority in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. Emmanuel's topic is, you don't have to win every battle in order to win the war. Now, of course, we're talking about divorce, so if you're one of the many divorcing couples in the Denton, Texas area, it might be a good idea to down tools, log out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or anything else you might be doing which may cause a distraction. Grab yourself a notepad and pen, get yourself a glass of water, sit back and relax, get ready to take some notes and listen in to what Emmanuel has to share with us today. So, with that said, let's not keep him waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Emmanuel.
How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Good stuff, Emmanuel. We've got about 20 minutes to share your insights with the listeners out there. So let's jump feet first in, as we like to say in the UK. Can you briefly describe what types of people you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Well, we represent all types of different people. Anyone that has a family, that's who we represent. So that's a wide array of people, but specifically I feel like the people that we represent are the people that are trying to make the best out of a bad situation. I don't believe that anyone goes into a marriage expecting a divorce, and no one ever goes into having a child expecting a custody battle. And so many of the clients that we help are clients that have reached that point where they don't believe there's any reconciliation, but they want to make sure that their rights are protected in regards to property, but more importantly, custody and visitation of their children.
Okay, great. So it goes without saying, Emmanuel, that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. And I'm sure in the many years that you've been practicing that there are many misconceptions that you've come across. However, could you just share one of the most common misconceptions that are out there while you're helping the people who you love to help the most?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to be mean, that you have to be hard, and that the attorneys have to be aggressive. And sometimes you see attorneys out there that they play that card. That's not the card that we play here, because realistically, the attorneys that are like that, and if both attorneys on either side are like that, both attorneys are going to get enriched, while the two spouses are going to be spending money hand over fist. And so we always think it's much better. It's going to save you probably anywhere from 60 to 70% if you're able to mediate or negotiate some type of settlement or some type of an agreement that it's going to benefit all parties involved. And so the misconception is that you have to be mean and you have to attack the other side. And I know that we preface this by saying you don't have to win every battle to win the war. And unfortunately, it is a war, but it can be done with diplomacy.
Right, so with that said then, Emmanuel, and keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, Please share an example of how you've helped somebody who came to you possibly with that misconception, with those challenges you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them.
Well, I mean, a lot of times clients come in here, they're saying that they want a divorce, and then they want an opportunity to speak or explain as to why the other spouse is just a degenerate, why they're the worst person in the world. And a lot of times these people come in, they got texts, they got pictures, they got all these things that are just here to bury their spouse and their soon-to-be ex. And they expect the attorneys to want to use every bit of piece of that. And I always try to tell my clients that if need be, we'll use that. But at the moment being right now, we don't have to get there. We don't have to go there. We all have skeletons in our closets, and that's the best advice. Because even if you think you don't have skeletons in your closet, just because if you've been married to someone for longer than a couple of months, they're going to know stuff about you that you don't want other people to know. And so what we try to tell them that all these allegations or all these things that you're saying about your soon-to-be ex, he probably has a handful of things that he wants to say about you. So we don't have to use any of this information only when it comes to the position where if we're going to a trial or something, then we can use that. But initially, as much as we can, let's be amicable. Their side, the opposing side, is going to have, if he's represented, the attorney, and if he's a good attorney, he's going to advise them appropriately as to where that person stands in regards to strength of his positioning in the negotiation process. And I'll do the same, and I'll assess my strengths and my weaknesses, and you start from there. And so pretty much you don't have to show all your cards.
You bring up a very good point there. I mean, if there is somebody listening right now and they're in that position, what you just described, they have all this evidence, they have the text messages and the photos and all these things, and they're all gung-ho for getting as much as they can, and they just want to annihilate their partner. If there's someone out there listening to you right now and they feel that way, and maybe rightly so, maybe they were cheated on or whatever the circumstances may be, instead of approaching you or any other family law attorney in that manner, what would you recommend would be the best way? What would be the best way to start when they initially go to see a professional like yourself?
I mean, I do believe that having that information, I do think it's important and it's helpful.
Right.
But I would just let them be aware that don't be upset or don't question your attorney's willingness to not use or unwillingness to use what you have. Mm-hmm. Because again, we are we play this game. This is what we do for a living, and so if we choose to use something, and there's certain areas that you want to use it at, and then sometimes a lot of the stuff could come back and be a negative on us, because the worst thing that judges can't stand, they can't stand tit for tat.
Right.
They can't stand that we're going after them because they're going after us. Mm-hmm. And so the best route you can take sometimes is the higher road. And so sometimes when you're having to go with those little things, it doesn't do anything to serve you. Now, there might be something in there that I review everything. We'll review the text, we'll review the emails, we'll review the Facebook posts, and we'll review the Facebook pictures. And if there's something that we feel, oh, you know what, we can get something out of this. And it's probably not even something that our client was thinking of, but because of our legal knowledge, we would be able to say, this could help us in a situation where the opposing side is claiming this or saying this. We would be able to use this to the validity of their argument or their truthfulness.
Right. That's a great insight. Thanks for sharing that with us, Emmanuel. So as a reminder, today's topic is you don't have to win every battle in order to win the war. And obviously, we're talking about divorce. Now, with that in mind, Emmanuel, and for those divorcing couples, that are listening right now and they're wanting to know more, what's the most common but unknown pitfall that they need to keep in mind regardless of their situation?
Communicating with the children as to what's going on, the legal proceedings, telling the child, well, your dad's doing this, or telling the mom, well, your mom's not trying to. I think that's, as soon as a judge finds out that you are putting the pressures, and I don't care if it's a 17-and-a-half-year-old, if you're putting any pressure on any child of the marriage, that's just a horrible position to put your children in. And I know sometimes that the parent feels that they're doing so because they're looking out for the child and they love the child, and sometimes they're doing, most of the time they're doing it out of love. They love the child so much that they want the child to stay with them. But again, I would request, and they ask them, that they leave that in the hands of their attorneys or the professionals so that we can work something out, because unless your ex-spouse or your spouse is an ex-murderer, a heavy drug user, that person is still going to be involved in your child's life. And a lot of times I have clients all saying, okay, well, I just have to deal with them for the next 7 years. I go, that's not the case. Yes, your child's going to be 18 and 7 years, and any type of child support obligations or visitation, but you're going to be dealing with this person for the rest of your life. They're going to have grandkids. Those grandkids are going to get married. Your son's going to get married. Your daughter's going to get married. I mean, graduations, birthday parties. So you're going to have to learn to be as civil as possible. One thing that I always try to tell my clients, to kind of like talk them where they want to retaliate, if they want to do anything, I always said, at one time, believe it or not, you loved this person.
Right.
And as a result of that love came a child. And so if we can think about it like that, and maybe you guys didn't work, and I understand not everything works, but if we come with that basis that there was love, and so if we could start with that, then it can kind of make it more amicable.
You know, this is a really good conversation, and it's one of the reasons why we started this series, is to benefit those children of divorce that you just mentioned, because in our eyes, they are the most vulnerable people in a divorce process. So really appreciative of you coming onto the show and sharing these really useful insights for our listeners out there. So, Emmanuel, can I ask you something of let's say a personal question?
Yes.
So how long have you been a family law attorney?
5 years.
About 5 years. Okay, so imagine this. It's a Monday morning or any other morning of the week, and it's 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever time your alarm clock goes off. And you arise and have a full day ahead helping those divorcing couples in the Denton, Texas area. How does Emmanuel feel about that day ahead? Is this something that you're still passionate about after 5 years and so many cases?
Yeah, I mean, I am passionate about it. Family law, I tell people all the time that there are a lot of costs associated with family law, financial being the least of them. I mean, it's emotionally draining, physically draining. I mean, it's tough.
Right.
And so what we try to do is to in the beginning, to manage expectations and let them know what the potential pitfalls are, what they're looking forward to, because that's where I can stay passionate about it, because I don't ever try to sell anyone false hope. I'm not one of those attorneys that can say, oh, you come to we're for sure going to get your kids, we're going to get custody, and he's going to end up paying you every bit of child support and spousal support. We don't do that. I tell people all the time, if you got cancer, I got to tell you got cancer. And I know there's some clients who would rather have someone tell them that they have the magic bracelet that's going to cure their cancer, but 6 months later, they still have the cancer. And so our position is, if you got cancer or if you got a sickness, we got to tell you have a sickness, and then we figure out the best way to treat that sickness. And so we kind of lay out a plan or a roadmap, and most of the time it stays on that plan or roadmap, but every now and then it deviates, but it doesn't deviate so much that our client doesn't know what's going on.
You know, Emmanuel, I love that straight talking, straight as a die, as we say in the UK, approach to how you help your clients. And I'm sure that they appreciate that over time. It may come as a shock up front, but everybody appreciates somebody who just speaks the truth and gives it to them as it is. So I am sure that for anybody out there who's listening right now, after hearing that and after hearing you sharing all these other great insights, they would want to know a little bit more about yourself, and especially in terms of your background, your education, and your experience as it relates to the topic of family law. So with that said, could you just spend a few moments just sharing some of that information, your background, your education, where you studied, all that kind of thing, so that the listener can get to know you just a little bit more, please, Emmanuel?
Well, I grew up in a small town southwest of San Antonio, Texas. I'm the middle child of 5 kids. I'm the only one that has a college education and has pursued anything higher than that. My parents were divorced when I was 4 years old, and I didn't have much contact with my father. So I was, for the most part, raised by a single mother who eventually remarried, but and so I was kind of, he was more, my stepdad was more of a working guy, not necessarily a father figure. Mm-hmm. Went off to college at Texas A&M University, where I received my degree in business marketing. And then I was in the corporate world for 8 years. I traveled all across the country. I lived all across the country. I lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Cleveland, Ohio, Miami, Florida, Houston, Texas. And around that time, after 8 years or so, I wanted to pursue, which had been a lifelong dream of being an attorney. And so after 8 years of being in the corporate world, I decided to attend law school. And I thought I was going to be behind the curve, but I actually felt I had more of an advantage than some of my fellow classmates because I had lived life. I was married. I had bought properties before. I mean, I had a retirement. I was more familiar with life experiences than other of my classmates, and so I decided to attend Regent University for law school. It's in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and one of the reasons I did so is because one of the mottos of Regent University is Christian leadership to change the world, and that spoke highly to the university as to what they were attempting to do, and that is putting Christians in prominent positions where that they can have impact on others. And so as much as we can, we try to minimize that impact of a divorce.
You guys sound so good, Emmanuel. It makes me feel like filing for divorce myself just so I can come and work with you guys,
Hey, but you know what, though? And this is one thing I do with every single one of my clients.
Right.
My hope and my goal is that for them to come in and say, you know what, we don't want a divorce after all. My goal is always reconciliation. If there's possible, and I send them, if possible, if there is a goal of reconciliation or they think they can reconcile, I try to send them to community members, churches, and all that. I don't even charge for any of that.
Perfect. So we are approaching the end of our time today, Emmanuel. And I've just got 2 more questions. So if you could just picture the kinds of divorcing couples who come to you for your help, and they're wanting to know more about not having to win every battle in order to win the war. With that picture in mind, Emmanuel, what final thoughts would you like to impart with those listeners before we move on to our last question for the day?
To not have tunnel vision, to not be so short-sighted in your view. We'll have a newborn, and me and my associates and my staff, we're looking at 20 years down the road, and where the mother or their father, they're just looking for the next 6 months or the next year. Right. And they're not taking into account the possibility of their spouse meeting someone else and wanting to move to to a whole other section of the country. And so we try to take all that possible issues into effect. And one thing we always say that a divorce decree or divorce order is only there in case things go wrong. If you guys are amicable, you guys can go beyond the divorce decree. But if either of you chooses that you don't want to follow the divorce decree, at least you have some legal backing because there's an order. Mm-hmm. And so that's so the battle. Sometimes you see. I always think it's funny because some clients are fighting over some small valued items that are not even sentimental, and they're fighting stuff, and they're paying my hourly wage to fight for something that's probably a tenth of what my hourly wage is. And so those are the things that I try to tell them, those little battles that you don't have to win if the goal is to either have the children reside with you or to have some form of split custody or open visitation, that's the war. So one of the things we always ask our clients in that initial consultation is like, what would you like to hope happen? And if that hope is lined up with what we believe we can do, then we say, I think that's a reasonable expectation. But if that hope is beyond what we can do, we let them know that if those are your expectations, we're not going to be able to accomplish that. And it'd probably be best if you go somewhere else. But I would advise you that any attorney that can guarantee that they would be able to do that with a certainty, I would run the other way.
Finally, if there is somebody who, after listening to you today, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few people who want to know more, Emmanuel, they want to know more about not having to win every battle in order to win the war. If that's the case, how would they be able to reach you? Where would they find you, Emmanuel?
Well, you can find us online, www.albaradolaw.com. And that's Albarado with A-L-B as in boy, ARADOLAW.com. I would also advise, which is how we get a lot of our business, is through client reviews that we've gotten through Facebook, that we've gotten through Google+, but specifically avvo.com, which is www.avvo.com, which is an independent organization that people go on there and they write client reviews in regards to the type of experiences they've had with their attorneys. And in our area, we're probably in the top 5 as far as the number of positive reviews we have on there. And one of the taglines, or our slogan for our law practice is we have, we can, we will, and we care. And that last part, we take that very important, that we do care about our clients' cases. And so I would ask you to look at our reviews, go to avvo.com, search Albarado, look at our reviews of people showing what we've done in the past. They can always call us at our office line, our main office line. It's 940-668-2690. This is a small law practice where you get a lot of attention because of our staff and how we do it and how we handle our business. You're not going to get lost with us.
You know something, after spending this 20 minutes or so with you, you certainly have demonstrated that you can and you will, and most importantly, that you care. So for anybody out there who has been listening in, that was Emmanuel Albarado. Don't forget his name. Thank you for sharing so generously with us today, Emmanuel. Like I said, you have demonstrated that you're a true educator and advocate for your client success. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
You are so welcome.
And I've never heard anyone say, which is a funny line, I'm going to go tell my assistant right now, that you said that I made you want to get a divorce.
Exactly.
That was funny.
Exactly.
That was funny.
It sounds so good. I'm like, I'm going to file for divorce to go work, take a flight out and go work with these guys. Sounds like fun. Anyway, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's a quick reminder, that was family law attorney Emmanuel Albarado. don't forget to check him out. He's in the Denton, Texas area. I'm sure if you do check him out, you're going to be in good hands. So finally, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.